Hello students, today we are going to see how this Git repository is working and how we can clone a remote repository to your local system, as well as how you can push the local repository project to the remote repository, right? So these are the things we are going to discuss in this lecture. So let me start the lecture with this document, then we will move on to the demo part of it. Okay. Okay, so the index of today's lecture consists of Git Bash and GitHub working, and the demo of the application which I am created as a simple project. That demo is also included here. So that project is also available. And then I'm going to use the scripting commands in Git Bash to execute the Git and add the repository to the local repository. After that, I am going to commit it. After committing it, from this local repository, I am going to push it to the GitHub. That demo also we are going to see, right? So these are the topics we are going to cover in this lecture. So now let's start with a simple example how to clone a remote repository. So you have to start with the git command along with and then followed by the clone command, and then you have to give the URL from which you have to retrieve the remote repository to your local system, right? So this is the URL from which you are going to retrieve that remote repository, right? So next, we will see how to create a local repository, and we are going to push that project from the local repository to the remote repository, right? So these are the steps to follow, right? So first you have to create a new repository, right? For creating a new repository, you have to open Git Bash. Already I have installed this Git Bash in my system. If you have not installed, you can try installing this Git Bash based on your operating system configuration. Next, create your local project in your desktop directed towards a current working directory. Right, so you have to create a folder. Within that folder, if you have any HTML files, that should be kept under templates. So I'm going to use this Python Flask for executing this, right? And templates folder, so this is the root folder and this is the templates folder under which you will have HTML files. And then within this root folder, you will have this, one second. I don't know why it has changed. Okay. Right. So HTML files. And then after this folder, we will have an application. You can specify any application, for example app.py, which will be directly available in the root folder. And if you are having any CSS files, that can be kept under static folder, right? So CSS files, static folder, right? Okay. So suddenly it's changing. Okay. Right, so like this you are going to create your local project folder, and after that you have to initialize the git repository. For initializing, after traversing to the directory where your new project folder is created, you have to init that repository, right? So initialize that repository, that is given as init repository, right? So in this git init, after executing this, you will get the details which will be started initializing your project folder. For example, if you are having the project folder is simple, simple will be initialized that project folder. Next, what I'm going to do, I'm going to add the file to the new local repository. Right. So, for example, here what I am going to do, I am going to take a folder which is already I have executed and tested, and that folder I am going to copy paste it here, right? that I'm going to copy paste it here. And after that, whatever the files which are kept inside the folder, using this git add, I'm going to add that. Right. For example, if I am having this templates folder, I'm going to give git add templates. Right. Similarly, I'm going to do after adding this, I'm going to represent git add uh, app.py. Right. So like that, I'm going to add each and every folder as well as files to this local repository. So this is known as staging area. Right. Stage area. And after that, after adding this, you can refer this git status so that it will show what are the files which is added to your local repository. After adding it, we are going to commit these files staged in your local repository by writing a commit message, right? So with your message, this is the message what will be displayed after the commit is successfully executed, right? So git commit hyphen m your message. So next what I'm going to do, so now I have created my local repository, added the files to the repository and checked the status of the Git. Finally, I have committed my Git repository. Now I am going to copy the repository to the remote repository, which I am going to create using GitHub. Right. So GitHub, already we have studied that the public repository is freely accessible and private repository is a paid version. So now I'm going to add the URL copied, which is your remote repository, to where the local content from your repository is pushed. For example, if I am having the local content, first there I have to create a URL such that an empty repository should be created. For example, let's say DevOps example, right? Or DevOps demo. Right. So like this, if I have created an empty repository, that URL should be copied, and then you have to add the origin to your local repository. Right. So this is the command which is used to add the origin to your local repository. Git remote add origin your URL name. After that, you have to push the code in your local repository to GitHub, and this is the command for pushing. Right. So first you have to add the remote repository link to your local repository, then you have to push the master branch to the remote repository. So git push hyphen u origin master, and after that you can view the files in your repository by going to the git interface. Right. So you can just type GitHub in Google, and then you can verify. You can log in to through your GitHub account. Then you can verify what are the contents that are placed in the folder. So next we are going to see how to view your files in your repository hosted in the GitHub, right? So using GitHub desktop also we can push your local content to GitHub. So what are the contents we have seen so far is the bash scripting commands, uh, but same that can be done using GitHub desktop also. First you have to set up a desktop, and then you have to clone in a GitHub desktop and copy all the required files from your local computer in the clone folder. So automatically if you have copied in the local repository, that will be available in your remote repository because we have installed this GitHub desktop. Now move the GitHub desktop and commit to the master, right? And publish the branch in GitHub desktop to upload all your files to GitHub. Right. So that's all about today's theoretical part. Next, we will continue in the same lecture. We will see the demo of it. Right. So I will switch on to the Git Bash window. Now I am going to add the simple folder to this Git Bash through this Git Bash as a Git repository. Right. So for that, what I'm going to do, web app lecture, this is the folder. Within that, the simple project folder is available. So just I'm typing simple and then tab space, right, and then enter, right. So now the current working directory is changed into web app lecture simple. Next, what I'm going to do, so just give me a minute. Okay, so now we have opened the git bash. This is the git bash scripting terminal, and then we have navigated to the current working directory. Now we are going to initialize the git repository, right. So the command used for initializing is git init, git init, right. So now it started initialize the empty git repository in this given folder, which is web app lecture simple, right. So after initializing, what I'm going to do now, I'm going to add a file. What are the files which are available under simple? I'm going to add it. So for just listing that file, just I'm clicking ls. So it's showing what are the files available, right. So requirement.txt is a file which consists of what are the softwares should what are the packages should be installed during this execution of Python, and then Python Flask program, and then application.py is your application program, that is Python Flask program, and templates consist of two HTML files here. So that and all I will explain after executing this local repository. I will explain that application demo, and then we will move on for a remote repository, which is GitHub, right. So now let me show you. So now these are the files which are available. I'm going to add these files to this folder, which is simple, right. So git add. First, I am adding application.py. So it's added. Similarly, I'm going to add git add templates folder, and this is also added to it. Next, requirement.txt, git add txt, right. So now, if you see the status of this git bash, you can identify what is the status of it. Git status. Right. So here we are having the master branch, which consists of these files, right. Requirement.txt and templates folder. Within the templates folder, you can able to see the display details and get details, right. So now what I'm going to do, I'm going to commit it, right. So now adding what it specifies, we are adding the content to the staging area. Now what I'm going to do, I'm going to commit. Once commit only, the master branch will become active, right. So I'm going to commit, git commit. So since it is in the bottom, just I'm giving clear command, git commit -m success, right. So four files has changed, and these files are committed to the master branch, that is root commit, right. So now what we have done, we have created the empty project folder, and that folder is navigated through this git bash. After navigating, we have initialized git, then we have added the git content into that git, that is staging area. After that, we have checked the status of the git, and then we have committed the git, right. So now what I am going to do, So with this content, let me stop here. Then we will move on to the application. And after seeing the application, I will tell you how to push this to the remote repository, right? So I will start sharing my browser so that you can able to view the application execution. Okay, so this is the Anaconda prompt in which I am going to start executing this application, right? So before that, let me show you what are the contents inside this simple project application. So I'm opening the project, right? So as I said earlier, in Git Bash, we have added these three contents, right? Templates, application.py, and requirements, right? So first I am opening this Python Flask program. So if you see here, this is a simple program which consists of two HTML pages. One, it is to get the details with a simple request method, which is get, and then we are going to post them into this display details.html, right? So get the details using this um, text field. After getting the details, that will be sent to the display details.html, right? So it is a very simple program, and it will start executing one this is the default route of it. Using the decorator, we are executing. So two methods of HTTP protocol is followed here, get method and post method. Okay, so application.py is over. Now we will move on to other files, right? So next we will open this templates. Here we are having this get details and display details, right? So these are the two files I have referred here, get details and display details. So first we will move on to this get details content. Just what it is showing here, we are representing the title as what's your name, and then here we are having a text box and a submit button, right? So text box is named as name, and submit button we have named it as go. Next we are going to represent the next file, which is display details. That display details is shown here, which is given here as the so whatever the content that is forwarded from the get details, that is shown in this display details, and that display details is shown in this display details.html file, right? So whatever the name you are passing from this get details, that will be displayed in this hello display name, right? So this is the string representation, formatted string representation. Okay, so next, last file which we are having in this project is requirements.txt. So that also I will show it here. So only the requirement here is Flask, Python Flask. So Flask is represented here. Okay, okay, now I am using Anaconda prompt. I am going to execute this, right? So the execution is very simple. Just you type Python that application.py. Right, so it has started and it is running in this URL. So just I'm copying this URL and then opening a browser and then enter. Right, it's showing a text field with a submit button. So just I'm typing my name Devi submit. So it's showing the second page, display page, which is hello Devi, right? So that's all about this particular simple application working. Now we will see from Git Bash how we are going to move this to the remote repository. Okay, so I'm going to this Git. Okay, first I will just try to show my GitHub account, right? So this is my GitHub account where I have created my login, and the login name is under project guide R Devi, right? So here what I am going to do, I am going to show you how to create a new repository and how to push the code from the local repository to the remote repository, right? So for creating GitHub account, you just browse for GitHub and sign in to your log through sign in. Automatically it will create the account, right? So I'm going to project guide. So since there is no internet, it's showing. So just give me a minute. So okay, so now I have connected to the internet. So what you have to do after creating the GitHub account, your name will be appear here. So after going through it, you just click on this plus symbol and click on new repository, right? So it will ask for the repository name. Here I am giving the repository name as Devops Git demo, right? So here it's showing the repository name is available, and then what? So if you want, you can make it as private or public. So since I'm keeping it, so since it is free for public repositories, I'm just keep it as a public repository, right? So just I'm typing DevOps demo class 3, and it is demo class 1. Theory class we have completed 3. This is the demo class, first demo class. And then just click on the create repository, right? So it started creating the repository, right? So now you just click on this DevOps Git demo and then copy the link address. The link address is copied. Now what we are going to do, we are going back to this Git bash. In this git bash, we are going to give the command such that it is going to copy the local repository to the remote repository, right? So what I am going to do, git remote. First, you have to add the origin, right? So git remote, add origin. And within single quotes, you can give the name what we have copied from the URL. Just I'm clicking on paste, right? So remove the extra content, only starting with HTTP is required. HTTPS and end is a single. So added. So we have added the remote origin. Now we are going to push the original master. So for that, git push -u origin master. So since the internet is slow, it's showing it is a fatal error, unable to connect. Once again, let us try. Yes. So it pushed all the objects. So totally there are 7 enumerated objects and that is pushed to the content. Now let's verify whether it is pushed to our GitHub user interface GUI. Okay, if you see the browser which is GitHub account, automatically you can identify we have it is included the templates application.py requirements.txt, right? So and it is available in this master branch. So like this we are representing all the content, how we are storing and uh, pushing it into local repository and how we are pushing it into remote repository, and if you want to get it from the remote repository, how to clone it, right? So these are the content we have discussed in this today's class. Thank you.